Well, Michael Bryant, I never thought
Yes.
I'd hear the P word said so many times in a trial broadcast on this network, but here we are.
Prosecutor? No, that's not the P word you're talking about. Well, we may get our fill, but hey, it's all about the First Amendment.
Justice, where are you? Michael and Linda are here.
Love you, Linda.
The world is justice. Will we ever find justice?
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing
Will
"Oh
we
Happy
know
Day."
justice when we see it? To be and down will I lead the way. Hoping justice will win the day. Listener clues, finding justice where we can. Join us now, we're on the run. Justice is waiting, we'll see it done.
And welcome everybody to Justice Serve TV Free Speech Thursday. Is that a thing? Maybe it should be a thing.
It should be free speech,
Free speech every day.
Okay. The First Amendment is under attack in this country. Okay. And that is why, whether you like him or don't like him, Elon Musk said, yeah, he was supposed to be a First Amendment fundamentalist, because people are using, and states are using, and governments are using all sorts of ways to try to get around the First Amendment. And you know what? Thank God we had somebody draped in the new courtroom attire of the American flag, sort of. I've seen it in the marijuana flag, sort of.
Yes. If you're high, it looks a lot like the flag. Yeah.
And looking like it's him, a civil rights icon, against the movie cast in Deliverance, if you all know what I'm talking about. Well, Afroman has taken the world by storm. He's taken the First Amendment by storm, and it's put life in, maybe a little scared, into some jurisdictions and some states and some places and some people that want to go after someone who is using the First Amendment properly, especially after somebody, cops herein, according to Afroman, trashed his house, came in, cut his cameras, used AK-47s or some kind of automatic rifles, pointed at his kids, and stole his $400. So we don't have ripperies for you, because this is a ripperies. Allegedly, yes.
And that's probably why I'm suing the Massachusetts State Police, which is still an ongoing case. They tried to infringe. They were trying to infringe on our First Amendment rights. And so anyway, so the Afroman case has taken on a life of its own, I do believe. And so we thought, why not bring a couple of folks who kind of like the First Amendment, and we can share some of the tidbits from the case and some of the video, as much as we can share without getting those crazy strikes. Let's bring on Mr. Mark Bederow and Mr. Doug Weinstein. Gentlemen, how are you? Good to have you along.
Thanks for having us.
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
So let's see. Let me start with you, Mark. I know when we first reached out, you were like, yeah, I don't know much about that case. And then it was, oh my. You obviously checked into it. First thoughts.
Just what you said. If these people had handled this like professional police officers, me, like probably 150 million and other people would say, I don't know what this is about. I don't even know who Afroman is, but they made a spectacle out of this by choice. And they have now made themselves national laughingstocks and frankly, babies, which police officers should never be. And it just, my just initial thought is, this is insanity that they somehow pursued this civil case, that they were advised to pursue this case, and that if their true grievance in life was, you're invading my privacy and I'm embarrassed, then the last thing they should have done, whether they were even going to get a few dollars, which I don't think they were ever going to get, would be to put themselves in the public eye and take on a guy like this, who probably enjoyed being a defendant more than anyone else I've ever seen, from the limited clips that I've seen in a courtroom in my life, and played the role just perfectly. And here we are. Just what a fiasco.
Yep. Doug, what do you think? And Doug, by the way, wait.
I have to introduce Doug. You know why?
Okay.
You know why? Because we normally do Fashion Friday, but we're going to do Fashion Thursday. And, since I'm wearing a star, I just want to show that Doug is draped in the colors of the real American dream here. Doug, can we get Doug bigger and show this?
Here, look. Here we go. How's that?
Oh, he's
in on that.
It's my vintage early 1970s Budweiser sport coat. Since I did not have, it's an homage to Afroman. I don't have a real American flag coat.
I don't think many people do. Yeah, you're right.
Are you getting Temu right now and order one? So
wait. Did you see how Doug has signed himself in as a guest? Doug, no
I can't do
Afro, no Doug, no Afro, Jufro, Weinstein.
Okay.
And then, so
I'm sorry, Michael, to interrupt you, but
no, all I was going to ask is if he was sponsored, if he was being paid by Budweiser.
Oh no, you don't have to pay me to sponsor Anheuser-Busch. So everything Mark said is 100% correct, and they're going to have to rename the Strisand effect the Afroman effect after this, because again, if you do not want to bring attention to something, the last thing you should do is to sue on it. And I am, I guess, I'm pleasantly surprised somewhat by the outcome, but it's wonderful. And I don't know what these police officers were thinking. I don't know what advice they got from their attorney regarding this lawsuit. I just counseled someone 2 days ago on something very similar, to not file a suit because you don't want to bring attention to this. And the other thing is, and I think y'all would agree, most police officers that I know would consider it a badge of honor, in a way, to be mocked in this sense by someone. To have such thin skin on this that you go and you sue, it's ridiculous.
It is, and I have so many friends over the years from my days as a prosecutor and beyond who are NYPD officers or FBI agents, whatever, but in particular NYPD guys. Every single day, especially if they're patrol officers, if they're uniforms on the street, the stuff that they hear, the stuff that they put up with, and they know it. And not that they enjoy it, but they know that it's part of the deal. It is what it is. People are going to scream and yell and speak their minds, and nobody likes it. But the last thing that would ever cross anyone's mind would be, let me, conduct a search where we tear a place up, break the gate down, cut the wires on this, allegedly steal money, true or not, allegedly eye some fresh cake, true or not. The guy is, apparently a known rap figure, so he has a platform. Why would you basically say, here's what we're going to do? We're going to say our feelings are hurt and we're going to sue this guy, and think that this is going to end any other way than being humiliated. And then, Doug, you mentioned, well, what kind of advice did they get? I was thinking that too. What lawyer could possibly tell them this is a good way to go, until I saw some clips yesterday, and I think I know what the answer is. I think the answer is he thinks God spoke to him and told him, we're going to win, because, God apparently picked the jurors from the clips that I saw, is what the lawyer told the jury, that you have been selected by the hand of God. And this is absurd. I mean, all of this, and they deserve the result they got. I have empathy for them in being ridiculed and, all these offensive things that are said. Nobody likes that, but to pursue the course, as Doug said, that they did, and just pathetic.
And you mentioned the pancakes. Yeah.
Michael's been getting fat all week eating that
so good
pancake.
I have no other word than giddy. I was giddy last night when I saw these results, because we live in difficult times now, right? And here you have an all-white jury, rural, in a county that is 97% white, that stood up for the First Amendment with these incredibly offensive lyrics, with mocking law enforcement. It was a wonderful outcome that I have decided I am going to take it as a sign of hope. I'm going to cling to it, as hope for our country and hope for the future. I think it's fantastic.
Well, Kat Williams is in our chat. And I just want to point out, I learned about this case first when I saw Kat. I was giving her a wrench here tonight so I could see when she joined the chat. And because she likes to have these cases that show like government overreach and all. And, I looked at a clip, and the one clip was, I don't think we put it out, but it was the attorney for one of the plaintiffs, and it had to do with Lickum Lisa or Lickum Low Lisa. Oh, you have that?
I don't have that, but I have her. So go ahead. Just continue.
Look at Lisa. And I first thought it was like a joke. I didn't know what the heck it was. And so then we looked a little more into the case, and I sent it to you, Michael. I said, you've got to see this case. And Michael said, I don't know what you're talking about. Right?
I know Afroman, though. I mean, the guy's been around since I've been around. And so I knew that, but I really had no idea this was happening. And so Kat Williams did an amazing job.
Yeah, shout out to her. Yeah, because we've seen, we try to give her credit, but I've seen some like reporters just getting into it as if they're there and been there and been covering this and it was their idea. Kat Williams, Broken Baker, and some others. You guys are the bombs.
Yeah, and Happily Angry Lawyer on his Twitter feed did a wonderful job, and also. I used the heck out of the fact that he had posted all of the documents on Google Drive.
Yeah, we were going to have Jim on, but it was just too wieldy. We're going to have him on another time next week when we go through this, because Jim Robichard is happily angry lawyer.
Yes.
We've had him on. He is a great, and you're right. He's got all the documents. He's got the whole document feed in it. So when we do a lawyer-like breakdown of everybody, we'll have him on to go through the documents. So, not that we're not lawyer-like.
Yes. Speaking of that, I hate to inject the law into this, but I want to get you guys' take on this, because I was watching each of the plaintiffs, and one is worse than the next. Except I kind of liked Lisa Phillips for a weird reason, because I think she could beat me up, number one. But she just, I think if anybody had a case, it would be her. And I base that on the per se element of defamation. And I didn't hear anybody talking about it. I didn't hear the court talking about it. But it exists, and Ohio believes it. It's an old common law that basically says if you accuse people of certain types of behavior, then per se, that is slander or libel, and therefore damages are presumed. I heard nothing from the court about any of that. The instructions were not clear on any of that. And maybe it wouldn't matter, because these are some of the most unlikable plaintiffs I've ever seen. I think Lickum Lisa had the closest thing to a case because of that per se element to these crimes or allegations. Allegations of crime. Back in the day, anything of moral turpitude would also go in that basket. Most jurisdictions have kind of changed that. But in Ohio, let me just read some of the language here for the presumed damages. It is a very broad interpretation there, covering statements that bring a person into ridicule, hatred, or contempt. That exists. And I don't think it was played very well by the plaintiffs in this case. And I think Lickum Lisa had the best case. That's what I'm arguing.
Well,
anyone?
She cut the wires. She cut the wires of the camera in his house. That's it.
Even though I think she did that by supervisor's direction, I still think that's irrelevant to the statements made. Okay, Mark, go ahead.
I mean, two things. The law obviously is the law. The instructions can be the instructions, but that's why you have juries. And ultimately, you offend the jury enough with all of the nonsense, it gets lost in the weeds, which goes to the second point. I don't know the full procedural history of this case, but this plaintiff perhaps would have been better suited to bring her own claim separate and apart from the other nonsense, because you get lumped into it. And usually you see this in criminal cases where there are multiple defendants. If you have the least culpable, you get concerned about spillover prejudice and things like that. I'm going to have to go along for the ride because I'm hearing about all these terrible people. And then the one count out of 100 that, my guy did. Perhaps she just becomes part of this spectacle, because that's what this was. This wasn't even serious. I mean, did anybody watch this and for a minute even treat this with 1% as a serious legal proceeding? Because it wasn't. And just, the videos, the way the lawyers are talking, the way the very colorful defendant and very charismatic defendant is dressed and talking. this was a joke in a courtroom. It just wasn't even a serious proceeding. And I don't think anybody is losing a second's sleep over her saying, well, he said something about me and, I'm offended. I have no doubt that she's offended, but that doesn't mean a jury's going to say, let's pay you money when you're the one, as you said, who, was part of a search team that, tore the place up, found nothing, subjected him to this, and you're public officials, okay? And I think that's the other thing that gets lost in this. Public officials are the easiest and most appropriate target for the First Amendment. I mean, the number one function of the First Amendment is to air grievances and protest the government. And in this case, the government came in like stormtroopers based on whatever cause they got a warrant for, whatever they did. They tore the place up. Nothing happened. And he recorded them on his own equipment. I mean, so they're acting in the course of their public duties. There's no real right to privacy here. I mean, and to complain about this and file a lawsuit and say you owe me money because you're using satire and you're using crudeness and criticizing me because I'm pissed off because I think you violated my rights. Suck it up. That's the First Amendment. And that's why they deserve nothing.
Yeah, suck it up. Doug, let me just ask you this with regard to that, because Mark is right on point. I didn't treat this seriously, except for the fact I was worried that possibly there could be a judgment against him, against Afroman, because of, quite frankly, because he's a black man with a big afro in a courtroom full of white people. And to me, the first thing, as I said in the cold open, it sounded like deliverance. And I was concerned that they wouldn't take him seriously here. So if you were represented, would there anything else that you would have done differently or not? I mean, I love his courtroom attire, but would you have made him somebody else?
Sadly, I may have. I mean, I don't know that I could have let Afroman be Afroman in the course of that courtroom. I think I would have been worried about it. And clearly, that would have been the wrong decision on my part, because him turning it into a mockery, I think really, really helped his case. And, I did, while the trial was somewhat ridiculous, there was, if you go back and you look, there was extensive pretrial briefing. There was motions for summary judgment, flying back and forth between the parties. Michael, the issue that you raised about the per se defamation, I didn't see that briefed, but I'd have to look again. Even the ACLU filed an amicus in this case, weighing in. So the judge had a lot of things to consider prior to trial. And I think reading his orders, he just let it go to trial because he just felt there were issues that couldn't be decided on summary judgment. One of the reasons I went back to look at this was to see if there was any type of an anti-SLAPP law that was invoked. But then I saw, and y'all may have seen this as well, there'd be an issue actually as to whether it would apply. But then Ohio did not pass their anti-SLAPP legislation until January of 2025.
Can you or Mark explain what that? Can you explain what that is? What an anti-SLAPP is, and Mark can explain what a SLAPP suit is. I'll split the legal duties.
Well, let's start.
You're paid so
Mark
much
can
in this
start
show.
with what a SLAPP is, and then I can say what the anti-SLAPP is.
Mark, okay.
If you file lawsuits to pester, harass, and make people spend money just to fight for no merit, that's it. That's the Reader's Digest version of what a SLAPP suit is. I mean, it's just abusing the legal system to try to, whether it's to outgun somebody financially and just clog up the court with litigation and whatnot. I mean, that's the Reader's Digest version. Yeah. Just frivolous litigation designed to harass.
And so over 35 states have passed anti-SLAPP legislation. Of course, SLAPP that's strategic lawsuits against public participation. It's to try to shut down voices that are out here in public speaking about public issues, such as police harassment and raiding people's homes and trashing their homes and allegedly stealing $400. So it felt in some way like an anti-SLAPP was perfect here. And what's nice about anti-SLAPP laws, and there's a uniform one that's circulating around as well that some states are enacting, but they let you go in, and I think you have roughly 60 days from the time that the lawsuit is filed to go in and essentially file an anti-SLAPP motion to get the case shut down. And if you win that, you get attorney's fees, which is wonderful. Because you've got people using the power of the courts, exactly like Mark says, to quash little people who don't have those same resources. And normally I am opposed to fee shifting statutes and attorney's fee statutes, but on anti-SLAPP, it's perfect. And so, but unfortunately, I guess Afroman did not have that available to him due to when this lawsuit was filed back, I think, in 23.
Yeah, New Jersey adopted about 2 years ago the UPIPA statute. That's the one that you're talking about that's going around and being adopted, which is an anti-SLAPP statute. It's not as strong as some other states like Vegas, though. Not Vegas, Nevada, I should say. I keep thinking of Las Vegas when I think of Nevada.
It is a state of its own.
It seems like a state of its own.
Before we get too far away from my friend Lickum Low Lisa, let's take a look at just a moment or two of her testimony. This was on direct, but it was the plaintiff's opportunity then to kind of, show with the jury what was bothering her so much.
Lieutenant Lickum Lisa, stop looking at pussy back there. That's the problem. You always look at pussy and you don't even know how many pussies you licked. You don't even know how many video cameras you've disconnected.
What number? That was 21?
Yes.
Did you see that video when it was posted?
Yes, sir.
Let's go to the next one.
Now, even when I just heard her say yes, sir, at that point off camera, I thought it was a guy. It's amazing how.
If this lady is your friend, I wouldn't leave her alone in my house. Or I'll put it this way: if you leave and your video system is messed up, et cetera, and then down below a little further, my name for this particular officer is Lieutenant Mona Lickum Low Lisa. When did you first see this posting, if you recall?
Shortly after the warrant.
That was over three and a half years ago. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Let's go to the next one.
Let me ask you guys this about Ms. Phillips. Is it important that she talked about having issues all the way back in school because her voice was deep and people thought she was a transsexual or she was really a guy? And the impact on your reputation is part of the mix, right? So did it hurt her case, Mark, that she had that history of being ridiculed for the things that, in part, she was being ridiculed again, this time by Afroman about?
I mean, on some level, if she's used to it, then, one would think that perhaps her emotional harm and hurt feelings and privacy violations are less. On the other hand, it's probably never been publicized to this extent. But to me, I look at this, and I don't mean to sound crude or cruel, and I say, so what? It's offensive. I mean, obviously she has to sit there and listen to his crude language, which a lot of people think is funny. Maybe some people don't, but whatever. He's pissed off at what she did to him as an agent of the government. Okay. And he's pissed off, and he's a public figure, and he's speaking on a matter of public concern. He has a platform, and he's sharing his crude, obnoxious, and whatever views, and it upsets her. That's okay that she's upset. And I don't think anybody should wish for her to feel upset. But at the end of the day, in a legal sense, the legal response in this situation is, so what? You don't get to go to court and sue him and get money because, your feelings are hurt that a public figure who believes that you violated all kinds of rights that he had under the Constitution and suffered him damage. I mean, he's a public figure. They raided his home. You're kidnapping, you're sex trafficking, you're doing all of this. And it turns out there's no evidence of that. So what does he do? He complains about the way the government treated him. And yeah, he goes a little low, as they say. He goes beyond her conduct as a police officer. He's mocking her appearance. Okay, it's offensive, but you're a police officer. Get over it.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, one of the things, Doug, is that what he said, Afroman said on his testimony, and this is very true, he said, they complained of the victims, but they were actually the predators. They were the predators. I thought that was wonderful. They want to say they're the victims and the predators at the same time, Yeah. But she, as I said, she tore his door down. She's the one that came through the door, tore it down, and she cut his camera feeds.
Yeah, I mean, of course he's indignant. Of course he's enraged. I liked what Afroman had to say after court, where he said, of course, he wouldn't have won, but he said, look, I could have sued the police department. I could have gone in there and filed a suit to try to recover the damages that they did to my house. But I didn't do that. Instead, I went out and turned something that was a negative, in his view, into a positive. I went out and did this other thing. I raised money so I could do all those repairs myself. And he's speaking out in his public forum. What's the old saying? You don't sue somebody that prints ink by the barrel. And that's essentially what you're doing when you file this. If she's concerned, and rightfully so, about this incredibly homophobic and offensive things that Afroman is putting out, don't shine more light on that by suing Afroman. I mean, I get that her feelings were hurt, but that's not the way to deal with it. When I lived in Taiwan for 10 years, in Taiwan, you can sue people for this and you will win. But this is the US and we have a First Amendment and you can't do that.
And I would just add this. Thank God he won across the board, because not that this case would literally have precedential value. I mean, it has no real value on any particular litigation, but symbolically and just the way things go, an emphatic win for him is a huge win for the First Amendment. And if it does dissuade people just from saying, my feelings are hurt, I was called names, so my remedy is just sue everyone every time that happens, the system can't function like that. The First Amendment can't survive like that. You're allowed to be obnoxious. You're allowed to be a jerk. You're allowed to be offensive. And as long as it doesn't, infringe on other things like creating an imminent risk of harm, of, a true threat and all those other things that we all studied, at real law schools that studied the First Amendment and those kinds of things, then that's just how you deal with it. Courtrooms are not the place to go and say, I'm angry because this man hurt my feelings because he's pissed off because we got a warrant accusing him of sex trafficking, kidnapping, and doing all kinds of terrible things. And it turns out he didn't do it. Get over yourself.
Okay, right. It's really interesting how the case gripped the nation once it became on Twitter with again people like Katnott Williams and all and Jim Robershard, happily angry lawyer, and others, Broken Baker, publicizing it so much so that this is in Adams County, Ohio. And as they were, Adams County, Colorado was receiving so many comments and emails and FOIA requests that they actually had their police officer get on and said, look, I get it. You love this case. And we understand why you love this case. But we're Adams County, Colorado. All right. So direct your hatred to them. I thought that was absolutely brilliant, because it was like, hey, like us, police department over here, because we're not them over there,
Yeah, they handled it the right way. Let's listen to a little bit of the man here, a couple of bits of his testimony that I think are interesting.
And is it fair to say you were angry and upset about this search?
I wasn't happy.
And is that why you posted the things we've seen this week, because you weren't happy?
No, I posted it because The sheriff's never supposed to raid my house in the first place. The whole raid was a mistake. All of this is their fault. If they hadn't wrongly raided my house, there would be no lawsuit. I would not know their names. They wouldn't be on my body. They wouldn't be on my home surveillance system. And there would be no songs, nothing. My money would still be intact, nothing. So all of this is their fault.
Amen. I mean, that's great.
Because they executed a search warrant on your home, that gave you the right to post the things that we've seen this week on the internet?
Because
is that right? Is that right, Mr. Foreman?
Yes, for tearing down my door, not paying for it, not being apologetic, me being a sport, doing something peaceful to raise the money to pay for their damages, me having the right of the freedom of speech as an American to talk to my family, friends, and fans about what the sheriffs did to my home. Yes, I had the right to my freedom of speech. After they left, I had the right to kick the can and to do what I had to do to repair the damage they brought to my house.
There you go, in a nutshell there. He's speaking for so many folks, guys, that, hope they're never in that same situation. But Mark, is there anything, if you were representing this guy, anything you would have told him? There was a lot of narration in this trial. There was one witness talking directly to Afroman.
Yeah, we have that. Matter of fact, we have that. As a matter of fact, let's just do that.
Afroman responds.
Yeah. Let's see if I can add this to the stage. Here we go.
And it just wouldn't stop. It enraged the community, and it got to the point that we were receiving death threats at work. It got to the point that my family felt unsafe. It got to the point where we would get a call that says, "Oh, I'm coming down there. I'm coming down to do whatever." It was a threatening call, and then we'd get a call about a tree down in a wildlife area, and we'd have to go. And I'm not going down there. I mean, this could be a setup. This became. We were afraid. We were legitimately afraid that this was going to turn from what it was into something violent. Because he used his position of power to spread a lie. You enraged the community, and you put me and my family in danger of this. Every bit of this was a lie, and you knew it.
Shouldn't have threw a fake rage.
Disregard the court statement. Finish up the testimony. Yes. Thank you, Judge.
So,
that's it.
Back to my question, Mark. There's some client control issues here, but anything you would have handled differently than Mr. Osborne did?
Well, I don't know. Stay tuned for maybe a year from now when it comes to client control issues, and we'll speak about something else. I mean, look, the lawyer has to do what he did. Tell him to stop. Inside, he is just loving this. He's like, this is a lawyer's dream. But I'm watching that exchange, and you're sitting here, and I accept everything that officer said is true in terms of he's telling the truth. He believes, we're getting harassed and we're potentially scared to respond to these areas, and it's all because of him. But the problem is he and the other plaintiffs, and presumably the plaintiff's lawyer, have a fundamental misunderstanding of how the U.S. Constitution works, and particularly the First Amendment. The First Amendment is first for a reason. I mean, that's like the most important thing. This country was founded on protesting the government, the Tea Party and all that other stuff. That's all classic, fighting the government. And his First Amendment right doesn't take a seat because the officer is speculating about maybe I could be harmed. I don't know, but it's possible that I'm scared and I could be hurt. And I don't doubt that. I mean, I sincerely hear what he's saying, but that doesn't mean the answer is your right of fear of what may or may not happen is over here, and Afroman's First Amendment right to complain what you absolutely did to him comes down here, and he should pay you because your feelings are hurt and it's impacting that you might not be able to do your job. If you sincerely feel that way and it affects your ability to work, resign, sir. That's okay. I mean, I understand that may not be the answer either, but you never subjugate the First Amendment because somebody says he's speaking his mind about government misconduct, but it hurt my feelings and it bothers me. Never, ever, ever.
Yeah.
Right. Or it bothers my family, or it bothers my kids, or it bothers this, or it bothers
speaking
that.
of family, you know, that was Sean Cooley. His dad is also on the force. His dad was also there at the time of the search. So we've seen more locally how these inbred, you know, family members make this the situation far worse. I won't name any names.
So Doug, with that, with Michael's comment here, could it also be not only that the jury of all white people, because we were concerned about that, as you and I both said, found for the First Amendment, but maybe they've had some experiences with the sheriff's office exceeding their authority that came out in the verdict. So they believed Afroman when he said, my money wasn't returned. I don't know which one he stole it, but, you know, my money wasn't returned. And he actually went to the police station with a film crew.
I mean, that's entirely possible. People have negative encounters with police. That's usually covered in voir dire. And I watched some of the voir dire in this case.
That was weird too.
Which was, to me, very weird because it was, they ask things I can't even begin to ask in Georgia or get close to asking and give little speeches and all of this other stuff that the judge, I guess that's the practice in Ohio. But I really hope it's not that. I really hope it's just the jurors standing up as one and saying, we value the protections that we have in our Constitution. We value the First Amendment. Think of the logical conclusion of what the law would be and the impact, kind of as Mark was saying, if an officer or a public figure being in fear is enough to trump the First Amendment. Think of all of the speech on very important subjects that would be shut down because of concerns that you might be sued. I don't mean to do a parade of horribles, but it just, or slippery slope argument, but it just doesn't. It's not the way our Constitution works. And by the way, I'm convinced if the jury verdict would have come out the other way, when this went up on appeal, they would have found for Afroman, I would think. So
the judge tried to, in my opinion, tried to steer this case that way. I mean, he had motions. He was telling the jury why he wasn't granting the motions and the legal
that
reasons.
Was unbelievable. He said, I don't want to say this in front of the jury. And then he says it in front of the jury. I mean, he's not good. Judge Hine, not good and not very well respected in that area from what I hear. I have, Linda, I have your favorite part of Afroman's testimony. Remember, for those who don't remember the details, after they seized his money, they had it for a period of time, then they were going to give it back. He didn't want to just go pick it up. He took a news crew and he took his attorney and they went to the cop shop to get it. So let's see as he's talking to the folks about that.
19 News.
You knew when you saw the warrant returned, didn't you, that the amount that they were saying was taken was actually more money than was in that suit pocket?
I didn't warrant.
That's why you brought the news to the sheriff's office when you got the money back, because you knew that they had miscounted the money and the number on the evidence bag was actually more money.
I didn't know nothing. The lady at the sheriff department just volunteered the information. I was sitting there, you know, if she had been, I might not even known I got ripped off. She admitted it live on Channel 19 News that the money wasn't right.
You remember in your deposition when I asked you, why did you bring the news when you picked up the money?
Yeah, I didn't want to get beat up or Epstein at the sheriff's station after I seen him running around my house with AR-15s. So that's why I brought the news and my attorney.
That's the problem, getting Epstein. That is never that is never a good thing.
Look at Mark. Mark is like, I think you're kind of smiling or something, Mark. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, with Epstein, I don't smile about anything, but I can tell you that this lawyer, I mean, the way he's framing the questions, and I mean, he's spoon feeding a witty, charismatic, funny, just perfect defendant. I mean, he's wearing American flag sunglasses, for Christ's sakes, and a flag suit. And by the way, how the judge let him wear the glasses, that I'll never understand. But putting that aside, I mean, the way he's just feeding him the questions and asking him these open-ended questions and letting him just body bag him repeatedly in his answers. I mean, again, you just watch this, and this is a joke. I mean, I can't believe this was like a real living, breathing trial actually happening where people were taking this seriously.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to remind everyone that Aiden Kearney will be joining us about 7:00 tonight, so you're not on the wrong channel. But let me go to Doug on this one. Doug,
you might be on the wrong channel.
Just in case. Doug, on this one, one of the plaintiffs, Sean Grooms, he claimed that Afroman and Afroman's songs and all about the cops was like the but-for cause. If it wasn't for this, his wife wouldn't have left him. And so the defense only had one witness, and the one witness wasn't recalling Afroman, who they said they were, because when he heard Afroman, he had been called on the plaintiff's case and cross-examined, so to speak. All right. They call the ex-wife, and she says, "That's not true. I had to get a restraining order out on him." Talk to me about that when you have a witness trying to prove a case who has lied before a jury, a judge, and about the reasons why they were scared.
Well, I can only assume that, I really don't like to attack other lawyers, but I don't know how plaintiff's counsel was unaware of that, how he was not prepared. I just don't know. I don't know. And so that was really kind of a body slam in a way. To the plaintiff's case is already in tatters. And then here comes the ex-wife on the stand to say that everything that her ex said was just wrong, just flat out false. And then for it to come out that she had to get a restraining order. It was like what the icing on top of the cake. Whatever.
Which cake would that be exactly?
That would be the 11-pound cake. The icing on, there you go. Thank you, Michael. That's why you're so witty. It's the icing on the 11-pound cake.
Okay.
Yeah, which is being eaten as we speak.
Well, I mean, that sounds like a lead into a little something here. Let me see if I can find it. I can find it for you here.
Now, we understand, by the way, people are talking about copyright strikes. So we're going to fight those because this is evidence. These were evidence in the trial. We're playing not the songs from Afroman's type, but we're playing the evidence that was played in the trial. So we understand.
This is as fair use as it gets. So when we get a strike for this, that will be our argument, and it's a dead bang winner.
Before you play this, you could not have scripted it any better in this cartoon trial that the client who wears the American flag suit, American flag glasses, the marijuana ring, has a lawyer who basically looks like Grizzly Adams and has like 6 pens scattered all. I mean, they're like yin and yang. It works perfectly. I mean, just so simpatico and just adds the humor to the absurdity. I love it.
Yeah, he's definitely a character, and he was interviewed after the fact, and we got a little bit of that as well. But let's get into my favorite part, which really, if nothing else, got me very hungry.
It's catchy.
So, Mr. Cooley, sorry, Sean, you were called Officer Pound Cake by Mr. Foreman
multiple times.
You
received hundreds of pound cakes at work from different people.
Okay. And the context of that name comes from a music video that Mr. Foreman created, correct?
I don't know where he got it at, but you'd have to ask him that question.
Okay. Well, I'm going to play what's marked Defense Exhibit B. I'd like you to watch this.
Okay.
Oh, you got to turn Oh.
The Adams County Sheriff kicked down my door. Then I heard the glass break. They found no kidnapping victims, just some £11 cake. Mama's living down cake. It tastes so nice. It made the sheriff wanna put down his gun and cut him a slice. Lemon pound cake, he wanna put down his gun. Lemon pound cake, trending on TikTok. Lemon pound cake, he's a family guy. Lemon pound cake, munchies because he got hot. living pound cake, pound cake. He's a
All righty then. And thanks to Trial World, who obviously branded this. They were one of the few folks who didn't cave and remove that from the trial testimony. They got a strike, obviously, and they went in and they cut that out. We ain't going to do that. We'll appeal it, and I can't think of a better fair use argument. So
can I add one to watching that video for a second? That guy's the plaintiff, okay? He presumably is the aggrieved party who has been so wronged. He's distraught. He's been humiliated. His privacy rights have been violated, and so on and so on. And he shows up like a slob and is sitting in the witness stand like this and acting like this and covering his mouth, basically saying, I'd rather be anywhere other than here. What a disgrace of a plaintiff he is. I mean,
yeah. and a cop. And a cop. I mean, they're all just slovenly pigs.
You're asking the jury to feel sorry that you've been wrong, and you're just this slob, unprofessional, miserable, just pathetic when it comes to like being a sympathetic plaintiff. And you certainly blame him. But a few minutes ago, you were talking about the lawyer's preparation. On some level, where is the lawyer to say, for the love of God, man, can you at least sit up? I mean, if nothing else, if you're going to be a sourpuss, can you at least pretend that you are taking this seriously? You're the one who's asking the jury to give you money. You should be the one to say, this is serious. And he looks like this is anything but serious to him.
Well, none of these plaintiffs appeared, either they were not prepped or they didn't take any of the prep that they were given. I mean, it has to be one of those two things. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to guess they didn't take the prep they were given, because they were awful on the stand. Just the answers to their questions, it's as if they didn't know the bases of the causes of action, the elements that they had to show. That I don't know if their lawyer didn't go over it with them, but they were giving answers that were wonderful on direct. They were.
How about the guy, Doug and Mark? When the question became whether or not Afroman had slept with his wife, can you talk to us about that?
No, maybe
I don't. Maybe
well,
I don't know.
I came to his rescue a little bit because the question was horribly phrased. It said, "We all know." That's the question. We all know that didn't happen, right? Meaning Afroman sleeping with his wife. We all know. And he said, "Well, I don't know." Meaning, I don't know if we all know. But it made it look like he didn't even know. If you have to go to that kind of explanation, you're doomed. But clearly it was a horrible question, made the guy look horrible. I thought, guys, early on, well, they obviously didn't spend the money to do depositions because they would have, they would know better what to expect. But sure enough, they did, because there were references along the way. Should I read you the answer you gave in your deposition? That blew me away.
How about the depositions even were videotaped, Michael? Because at one time when they had Lickum Lisa Low or whatever, and he's in the deposition, Afroman's in the deposition, and this is played before the jury. He says, "I'm sorry, I didn't know that you were really a biological woman, or else I wouldn't have said that." And then he goes over and gives her a hug or something, right?
Yeah,
you can't make it up.
This case was extensively litigated prior to trial.
It just makes you wonder, how do we get this far? Is this one of those deals where you're on the freight train, it's going down the tracks, and you can't do a thing to stop it because you've got these 6 hyped up plaintiffs that are now forcing you to continue to trial?
Well, I mean, there were reasons. I mean, any lawyer, if they have an ethical reason, can withdraw if it's the right thing to do. But I don't know that he wanted to. I mean, honestly, when I saw the clip about him telling the jury, "Thou have been selected by God to hear this case," I mean, that to me was this was already like a vaudeville comedy show. Just, this is a joke. But when you heard that, I mean, who's taking this man seriously? I mean, this is supposed to be the advocate for these plaintiffs, and he wants the jury to give them money, and he's basically saying God compels you to do it. I mean, I'm sorry, that doesn't sound like a serious lawyer to me.
Yeah, Doug, let me ask you about the money. And I saw a question go by, somebody saying, "You mean she's a biological woman?" Yes, she testified she's had this deep voice, and she was in grade school and was constantly ridiculed about it. So, Doug, what do you think about putting a number on? Now, when I argue a case, either side, I always like to give the jury a parameter, a number, because if you leave it to them, sometimes they will, if you're a plaintiff, they will sorely disappoint you. And even if you're a defendant, they may over award because they think it's okay and you haven't given them parameters. How do you feel about the parameters given here, 3.9 million? Do you think that made it even worse?
I think it made it even more absurd. I mean, the fact that you're asking for that kind of a dollar figure on this type of light harassment and mockery. Look at the lemon pound cake song. I mean, that is exactly the type of mockery the First Amendment's trying to protect. And to say that he was entitled to this ridiculous amount of money, and you know, a lot of citizens out there and jurors are offended, I think, at some of these ridiculous tort cases that come out in large judgments. So then when you ask for that kind of judgment, I think that you also have the jury a little against you.
You do. And also they're police officers. And I'm not saying you can't defame a police officer or upset their feelings, but let's be honest. They are police officers. They're not shrinking violets or little children on the street. They carry firearms. They do dangerous things. They deal with people who don't like them. And to say on behalf of these police officers, their feelings got hurt over a satirical video over pound cake and all this other stuff, so therefore give them $4 million. Get out of here. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
reminds me of some officer called Deaver in the Karen Reed trial a little bit. But before you go on with the next question, let me just, a couple people have a couple things. I just want to get them out there and then we can deal with them all at once. Lazy LCH, thanks for the donation. I actually thought the guy he called the PDF had maybe something in these times, at least, if you know what I mean. But that the officer's brother apparently had some issues and will.
He was convicted, I think.
He was convicted of something, and then the officer on the stand is the one accused of taking the money. Plus, what the Afroman said is he saw that he had grabbed the ass of a child in a picture, and I think that was enough. Some other member for Glamazoo's, member for 8 months, you can get lemon pound cake in Kelsey's store. Wow, somebody's already branding the lemon pound cake. All right.
Their sales are going through the roof.
And sure. Of course, our super sticker. Thank you very much. And then, Michael, I just have to put this up. Because this is something that's been lagging for a while. Catherine Arbona, 8298. Sheila Duffy, one of our moderators, tried to message, but I can get Sheila's mug to her to Ireland. Coming to Florida in 2 weeks and bring it back if it's helpful. How does that liaise? All right. And if
just send us at JustToServeTV@gmail. Send me whatever your contact info is in Florida and when you're going to be there. And Sheila Duffy, who lives in Ireland, and her mug came back as if it were some sort of explosive. They wouldn't deliver it to her. They sent it back to us, and it's been sitting here waiting for getting it back to her.
Can I say something about Afroman and his mockery and what he has done?
Yeah, let's go back to that. Right.
Just briefly. Thank God we have people like Afroman out doing this. I mean, how many people are in the same situation that he is in, where these warrants are issued? I just finished a case where I don't know how many search warrants I looked at that were electronically filed and signed by a judge 35 seconds after filing. There's no way the judge read that warrant. So how many people are searched based on baseless warrants, and they have no recourse? They have no way to go out there and voice their displeasure with what's been done to them. It's only because you have people like Afroman that have I guess not even that large a platform prior to this suit. But still it's a platform to say these things, and that we have the First Amendment to protect him.
You know, he did have a tear stream down his cheek when he won. Okay. I think that we've all looked at this is kind of a fun case, but I think for him, this really was a true serious case, and that he's someone like he could bring justice that we can all use, and we can all use this case. I mean, it may not be precedential in some states, but I think it brings home the point that the First Amendment's important, and you can't go out there, inject yourself into certain things, say certain things, then sue about things if you're the cops. I mean, the cops, did bad stuff here, in my opinion.
And here's the other thing: what remedy does he have? okay? If he tries to sue them for violating his Fourth Amendment rights or bring all these other actions, they're going to have, for the most part, undefeatable qualified immunity.
That's okay? A loser. Yeah.
Because they're going to say a judge signed a warrant and we're just following orders. So what is he supposed to do? I mean, again, the First Amendment, what is his right to aggrieve the government here? I can't sue them, essentially. I'm going to lose. I can't do anything else. So I have a public platform. I have my own video cameras. Those are my cameras. You came into my house, okay? My private area for no cause, or technically, I mean, the judge gave them cause, but you know what I mean? So what did he do? He complained about it publicly. He ridiculed the whole process. He created satirical videos, did all these things. That's what he did. That's all he could do. So that is what it is. This is like really a giant nothing burger. And it's just very refreshing to see that, you know, as someone said earlier, you know, it's a rural county in Ohio. Mm-hmm. It's an all-white jury. It's a guy whose name is literally Afroman. And but it's also, Ohio is like very red-blooded America too, with like individual rights. And you know what? That trumped everything here. I mean, they overwhelmingly didn't look at, you know, who he was and who the cops were, and just recognize that the First Amendment has meaning. This is garbage, and you get nothing.
Doug, Afroman's releasing videos daily, and good for him. Do the cops have a right to bring more charges, more defamation suits against them?
A right to bring that? Well, now they're going to have to deal with the anti-SLAPP statute in Ohio. And what crazy lawyer is going to bring that suit?
How
many lawyers around the country are wondering if that guy was on contingency fee?
You have to call God first and see if he approves.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
You have to pray on it.
That's true. But yeah, some lawyers bring something, and you talk about crazy plaintiffs, and there are crazy plaintiffs, okay? And so let's remember that. That's why you have these anti-SLAPP suits, right? Because of crazy plaintiffs and people trying to use the courts for purposes that they're not intended. So
yeah, and hopefully a case like this is a message to those who might be thinking about it. You know, they have their own frivolous actions in their brain pan that they may think is worth pursuing. Not everything is worth pursuing, and it can be costly to pursue it to this end. I mean, what are these cops going to do now? I mean, really, they're a joke.
They're a joke, but again, the irony is they're going to be more famous for the clips of their testimony, all the internet memes, all this other stuff that nobody would have known about a week ago or when the suit was filed, whenever that was, if you didn't do that. I mean, yes, they might be embarrassed locally. They might be some people say, hey, that's the guy, but this would never be what it is now. And so like, I personally had never even heard of Afroman until the other day. And I looked him up the other day, and he had like 20,000 Twitter followers or whatever. I think he's got like 65,000 2 days later. I mean, this is just the classic, you know, Strisand effect, if you will, about, you know, we're so upset, we're so embarrassed, you're violating our rights to privacy, you're humiliating us, and now it's increased exponentially because of this frivolous lawsuit.
Yeah, I saw someone saying, Ken, you can correct me, I thought on Instagram maybe he's got up to 1 million or something.
He was very close to 1 million on Instagram.
On Instagram, up to 1 million. You know, I mean, talk about the merchandising abilities here. But Doug, you were big on, we talked about lyrics and rap lyrics in the YSL case, right? And you and I and Michael, we've all been on a rant about how government shouldn't be able to use rap lyrics against an artist unless there's very specific, you know, like, you know, I killed X and Y purposely for this reason, blah, 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 blah. Here you have a rapper who's using his voice and his lyrics, on his public platform. Talk to us about the distinctions in these arguments.
Well, you know, obviously I'm always pushing for the Rap Act so that people cannot use folks' lyrics without going through certain steps to show essentially a nexus and a reason to use those lyrics. And I wish more states would push that. And it's along the same lines, right? Because again, as I say over and over and over again, these musical lyrics, these lyrics are only used against people of color, right? You never see it. Country music people don't have their lyrics used against them. And it's just more, and I don't actually have a big First Amendment argument regarding lyrics. I'm fine with lyrics if there's a nexus, okay? Yep. But so often there isn't. And Here you just have another situation where authorities are attempting to clamp down on free speech, and lyrics are similar to this. The rap lyrics are similar to this.
Yeah. Mark, your thoughts, because it's such an important issue.
I mean, I agree. Obviously, the fact that somebody makes crude lyrics and talks about, I got my AK and this and that in a general sense, that should never be proof or relevant evidence of anything to a specific issue in a case. But I agree that there could be circumstances. I agree with Doug. I mean, if somebody's accused of killing some woman and is singing in a rap song, I got my AK and popped her name and this and that. I mean, fundamental fairness, relevance, probative, prejudicial, all that analysis aside, I don't know that offends me in terms of a ruling of admissibility. But as a broad stroke thing, I mean, I handled a 440-10 case from Brooklyn years ago where they tried to accuse a bunch of kids from Brooklyn being in some street gang that they called the ghetto mafia. They just, whatever. And this prosecutor was asking at trial, and this is in 2003 in Brooklyn, New York, when the Sopranos were like the biggest thing going, comparing the accused to Tony Soprano, literally in court, and talking about capos and soldiers in this thing that wasn't even a gang, and that kind of crap should never be happening in a courtroom.
Or look at YSL, where they were using lyrics against, I think it was Thug, against some of the defendants, where the lyrics had been written 6 months or a year prior to the crimes that they allegedly described. It's absurd. So,
and that was the distinction we drew. So if it's corroborative of something after the fact, but just anything that you can attribute to them, I mean, that's obviously ridiculous. Yeah. Well, guys, at least I think we're making progress.
We are,
right, with this case. We hope it catches, and we don't see this kind of case too. I mean, I can't imagine a case like this, other than in Mayberry, this little podunk little area. I can't imagine it getting anywhere near a jury. I just can't. I hope that it wouldn't happen.
Well, let's see. But we have our favorite, at least I can say that, Mark. I will say that since it's our show on Justice Served TV, one of our favorite journalists, First Amendment crusaders, waiting in the green room to join us. I'll just give you a little sneak peek right there, who it may be, and then I can give you 3 guesses who it may be. I see a little smile from Mark. I see a little smile from Doug. Michael's still eating his
He's on the road. He's on the road.
Aiden Kearney, Dr. TurtleBoy, or known as Dr. TurtleBoy these days.
I'll be out of the house in like 5 minutes, but I can still talk on the phone here. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that. I'm enjoying your YouTube presentation.
Well, anything you want to chime in on? Anything that we've said that you want to correct us on?
I've only been listening to the last 10 minutes. I could lie and say that I've been listening to the whole thing, but I was at the dinner. But I mean, it's a very interesting case. It has very similarities to what I've been dealing with for the last decade. I mean, prior to being arrested, I've been sued more times than I can count for defamation. Never lost, and the bar for the First Amendment in this country is very high for a good reason, because we don't want to we can't allow people to just silence dissenting voices they don't like, voices that hurt your feelings. I mean, most people that sue me or try to get restraining orders on me or have witness intimidation charges pressed on me have one thing in common: their feelings are always hurt. And I don't know where people got the idea that your feelings matter. They don't. Legally speaking, at least, like, you're allowed to hurt people's feelings. It doesn't matter if you're offended. And I have watched the majority of the Afroman trial, and it was embarrassing watching these grown men and women who are supposed to be law enforcement, our first line of defense against criminality and evil, crying about songs. I mean, God forbid they ever come under the crossfires of Auntie Deb. They will be on the ground sobbing. I mean, it was like the woman crying. I couldn't get over the woman on the stand, literally sitting there crying about it. Like, you got to be kidding me. And the other guy, like, his brother was a pedophile. That's my understanding of it. His brother, so like
convicted,
Yeah, he wasn't a pedophile, but the guy, he was just pointing out, hey, your brother's a pedophile. Your brother's a pedophile. I mean, it's satire. It's like what brought up of like, he said he had sex with his wife or something like that, but you didn't, right? And nobody actually thinks you did. He's like, well, and he was all offended by it. The guy was like, he's like, I would hope not. I've been with her since middle school. Yeah, so exactly, point proven. It's a joke. Obviously, he's not having sex with your wife, pal. Relax.
But then he couldn't say if anyone believed it was true or not. That's what was so ridiculous.
He couldn't say it was true. I know. How do you not know if your wife is banging Afroman? How do you not? Yeah, you have much bigger issues if you don't know the answer to that question.
So let me go around the panel here. Do you think, because there's been a lot of talk on our chatter, that Saturday Night Live may do an Afroman skit? All right. What and Mark, legally, satire is what? I mean, we've seen satire a lot, but I don't think people have forgotten what satire is.
First and foremost is protected speech under the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, full stop. That's what satire is. This country was founded on satire. Thomas Paine in the Revolutionary days, all those other people, that's how they made political points, political cartoons that you see in newspapers and whatnot, or wherever else. That's what this country was founded upon. So satire is absolutely protected speech, and unless and until you get to true threats or encouraging the imminent commission of a crime or certain things like that, then what your feelings are doesn't matter. I mean, and you see this, it doesn't even have to be satire. People can be offensive. I mean, when they had marching Nazis in Skokie, Illinois in the 1980s, that's offensive. You know what? As a Jewish person, that's offensive. That's hard. That's offensive to any sane person. But you know what? They have a right to do it. And you don't have to agree with it, but you're not going to go arrest them or do this or sue them. That Westboro church that you're all familiar with. I mean, they're the most vile, disgusting people on the planet. But you know what? Even those scumbags have First Amendment rights to protest, deceased soldiers' funerals and just horrible, horrible stuff. And then you have a right in the marketplace of ideas that, that Brandeis and the others talked about, to say those people are scumbags. And that's what the First Amendment is. It's a living, breathing exchange in the marketplace of ideas. And the fact that somebody is offensive while being satirical and offends you is not a reason to utilize the courts, period.
So, and those of your viewers, and I saw someone comment in the comment section about
Nope, I think somehow we dug. We have to come back. I mean,
wait, say that
back.
Again.
Say it again, because we thought some people were going to think that we put a kibosh on what you were saying.
Uh-oh. It's about to roast someone in the comments. That's always the best.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Try it again. We got you now.
Oh, you got me now?
Yeah.
Okay. All I was saying is someone in the comments, mentioned Larry Flint, and I believe it was the Larry Flint, Jerry Falwell case, which is the famous First Amendment case where I guess it was Hustler magazine, and Larry Flint.
You pretend you don't know what Hustler magazine is, Doug. Okay, go ahead.
I don't know what it is. I've read about it in the case. That's the only reason I know about it.
Studied the case in law.
Yeah, that's it. We learned it in law school. That's the only reason I know about it. And I was only at Magic City on Monday night for research purposes after the Hawks game. So, Larry Flint in Hustler said unbelievably offensive things about Jerry Falwell. It goes up all the way to the Supreme Court. So those that aren't aware of that case, read that case, because what he said, what Larry Flint published about Jerry Falwell was terrible. But that's protected speech. That's protected speech. You can do that. You can do that type of satire as commentary. You can do it for any reason, but certainly as commentary on political movements and political speech. You absolutely can. And for these thin-skinned cops to bring this suit, you don't have to be a policeman. You sacrifice when you become a law enforcement officer. You give up certain things to serve your community in this fashion. And this is one of the things that they sacrifice. And God bless people that are willing to do that. But, you can't be thin-skinned and have this job.
Hey, Mark, is that any different?
Well,
if these people are not cops, is this case any different? I mean, obviously the search warrant issue, that's underlying, but I mean, things said, people offended, is it different?
I think a jury might be a little more forgiving in the sense that somebody is not, a public figure or doing the public business and whatnot. But at the end of the day, if I'm expressing satirical, obnoxious, crude opinions about someone, it's essentially the same point. I mean, there are certain things that you can carve out, so there can be a little bit of a difference. But if your grievance is that the guy's obnoxious and making fun of me and hurting my feelings by making these funny satirical videos, it's just very different. I mean, but anytime there is a matter of public concern, that there is something in the public interest, whether it's because you're a police officer doing your duty, or it involves, something that's high profile in the news, you're going to get less protection when it's something that is a matter of public concern and not exclusively private. And that can include police officers executing warrants on high profile figures. That can include people who are associated with very well-known criminal cases.
So Aiden, I want to get your. So I think I am having a.
There we go.
I have to get rid of one of you. Aiden. There we go. All right. Not that I'd want to get rid of one of you, Aiden. That was just because you were both.
There we go. That's the moment.
There we go. All right. So there we go.
All right. And I wanted to add real quick, right? It's like what Afroman. Why'd they do this to him? If it's because the platform is what did it, right? It's because if he was just some Joe Schmo did the exact same rap songs about these cops, they never would have done anything. It's because he has reach that he needed to be punished for. And that's essentially the same thing that's what's happening to me. There's a lot of people out there that have said the same exact thing I have about the McAlberts, about the people that helped cover up the murder of John O'Keefe. There's a lot of people that have said it. The only one on trial is me. Why? Because I platform. Because you have too much influence. It's not what you're saying, it's the influence that you have. That's what he's being punished for.
Yeah. So with that, sorry, Michael. With that, Aiden, he gave Afroman, whose name is Mr. Foreman, gave an interview after he was found. It's not guilty, but after he wasn't found liable for any of the counts of defamation. And we specifically want to get your take on what he said, because we think this case is so important, bringing this to the forefront, and everyone seems to be united against him. For this First Amendment reason. So, Michael, can you play that? It's not that long, I don't think, right?
Well, there's quite a bit of it actually.
Oh, then we don't want to play quite a bit of it. Did you listen to it, Aiden? Did you hear what he said afterwards?
Yeah, and I think that if that went to a bench trial, that would have been a different verdict based on my read on the judge and the comments. He did not seem to have a good sense of humor, this judge, and really wanted things that left out of it. He just reminded me, he had Auntie Bev vibes to him. And so it looked like he was begrudgingly reading that verdict. I don't think he agreed with it.
It was fast. I'll tell you that. It was very fast the way you read it.
Yeah, that's for sure. But we're happy for us because we're happy to report on it. Has he reached out to you, Aiden? Has Afroman reached out to you?
It's not reached out to me, no.
The Twitter's been like, there's got to be a Twitter X.
Afroman knows who I am. I'm flattered. I doubt it. I doubt it. But I to be honest, besides, because I got high, I can't name you another Afroman song. I did, but this has made him. I'm like, oh, he's like a Black Weird Al Yankovic. That's what he is. I'm like, he's funny. This guy just like, I'm like, oh, I get it. So now I'm more interested in him because these people sued him. So I'm like more inclined to listen to him. So not only did they lose and humiliate themselves, like I didn't know who these cops were before this. Now they're just jokes for the rest of their lives. Like if I were them, I wouldn't have brought this suit. Just if there was a 1% chance I was going to lose this lawsuit, I wouldn't bring it forward, because the humiliation of losing this it just amplifies whatever pain you're allegedly having right now. Because times 100 now, I wouldn't have done it.
But you know what? Is there any winning this lawsuit? Is there any winning this lawsuit? I don't think there is.
No, I agree.
Even if you get money, you're not winning. It's not a win. If really what you're concerned about is being mocked and your reputation and getting lemon pound cakes sent to your police department, you don't win this lawsuit.
We're sitting here a couple days after a verdict talking about this while Michael is eating lemon pound cake.
Very good.
Symbolize what these people were doing and how ill-advised this lawsuit was. And then, of course, you amplify this by 1,000. There's been so much coverage of this in the last few days. His social media profile has probably doubled, tripled, quadrupled, will continue to. I'm sure he's going to get interviewed by anyone and everyone. His music sales are going to go through the roof. And really, the only question is this: how much are they at this man's mercy? Because is he going to stop, or is he going to spike the football and just spike it again and again and again? And when you think I'm done, like, take out a megaphone and say, I'm going to spike it again. I mean, they've bought themselves so much more.
Think about this. He used that search warrant footage to create all of the prior videos. Now he's got court video. Yeah. He's got all kinds of testimony. He's got Lisa Phillips crying. He's got another album.
It's hard to think of a more ill-advised lawsuit.
The judge. I mean, is the judge going to be it? I mean,
Judge Hine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we saw him in the Ohio. What was that case, Michael, where the family was
Pike? He was in the Pike County.
Pike County, yeah, the Pike County
that was
case.
A horrible, scary case, and he didn't do himself any favors. People know him now, and he's just not well thought about jurist there.
I'll tell you what, though, if you have a lawyer that looks like his, you know he's good. If you can go into court with that kind of visual presentation, that you looking like Ulysses S. Grant or Rutherford B. Hayes, marching in there with a beard like that, you know a guy like that has confidence. I feel the same way about those two guys from Connecticut there, Kevin Smith and Norm Pattis. Like
Norm Pattis, the ponytail.
Like, if you can rock a haircut like that in court, you know he's good. Or else you wouldn't be rocking a haircut.
Well, that's why Doug Weinstein is now labeled himself Doug No Afro Jufro Weinstein, wearing a Budweiser jacket, okay? Because he's changing his courtroom attire to represent his clients.
Well, I can never be that bold.
Search lawyers get away with it. I mean, Linda, I'm sure you know, good friend Ron Kuby in New York. You know, he's kind of that real left, great lawyer, but wears a ponytail for years. And
before it was fashionable, before it was really fashionable, right?
Like real frumpy, hippie looking guy, but he's like a brilliant lawyer. He's witty. He's as left wing gets, but everybody likes him. He's got a charisma about him, and that's part of his persona. And he gets away with it because he's a great lawyer and charismatic, and people love him.
Yeah, Ron started out, for those who don't know, with a famous lawyer named William Kunstler, who did all sorts of cases. And Kunstler was really interesting. And I think I've mentioned this once on the show, Michael, is that he never stood for the judge. When the judge entered the courtroom, he never stood for the judge. He always stood for the jury. Always stood up for the jury, but never would stand up for the judge. All right.
The best compliment I could give Ron Kuby, amongst many, because I really, really like him.
I do too.
He's a funny guy. He's just a good guy. Yes. But he got a shout out in The Big Lebowski, if you recall, in the scene where the Malibu police chief beats up Lebowski. He's like, "I'm going to get Ron Kuby, man," and he just gets.
That's funny. Yeah, I worked with him at Court TV. He's just a fun guy, and we may not agree on many things, but brilliant legal mind and just a funny dude. So.
Yeah, that's terrific. So, Aiden, your final thoughts with regard to Afroman, because I do think this is an important case on many levels. Afroman had a lot of quotes, that you can't be the victim and the perpetrator at the same time, which is what these cops were pretending to be. He went to the police station. We played the clip to find out about his money, and he took a film crew with him because he didn't want to get Epsteined. I mean, he really kind of touched the American soul of what we're feeling right now, didn't he?
He did, but I think a lot of people are focusing on the fact that they're cops, right? And that, it's as if the lawsuit would be any stronger if they were civilians. No, if he made the same parody videos about civilians who he felt had wronged him, it would be the same verdict. Because a lot of people are pointing that out with my case, and they say, "Well, that's different, TurtleBoy. You're not going out. You're going after innocent civilians and witnesses and whatever." It's like, no, the First Amendment is the First Amendment. It applies to everybody, regardless of whether or not you are a witness just a regular civilian or a law enforcement official, right? You are not exempt from criticism. People are allowed to have opinions about you. They're allowed to vocalize them. They're allowed to even take to the streets and protest you, right? If they don't like the things that you're saying or doing, or if they feel that you're being dishonest, you're allowed to do all those things. So I think it was a major victory for the First Amendment, and hopefully a sign, if anybody's out there thinking about doing something like that, that like, this is how it's going to end. You hardly ever see these defamation cases that end. You got to be bad to get a defamation.
It's got to be that person heard.
Yeah.
That's what it's got to be.
Exactly. You got to be pretty bad, like in blatant, to get a defamation, judgment against you.
And full disclosure, I had a defamation action against a former employer and won, but that's for another day. Let me ask you this, Aiden, because we've talked about this from the beginning. It did pay for my law school. We've said that, if somebody has an issue with things you've said or done, then civil court is the place for it, yes. But Massachusetts obviously has turned it into a criminal matter. Not that you want to be sued in civil court, as you've said, it's happened once or twice before, but at least then it's a fair fight.
The stakes are a little lower.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think, and again, we should mention your motion to dismiss was moved to May 14th now, right? That's the next date. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. So if that fails and it goes to trial, assuming you'll be acquitted, I can't imagine otherwise. Do you think somebody's going to circle back on the civilian front?
I have no idea. They've been talking about a lawsuit for a long time. I check my mail every day, still waiting for that lawsuit. But I suppose, the statute of limitation is 3 years. So retroactive, they could find the last thing I said that offended them. As long as it's been 3 years, they can sue me at any point they want. Again, Strisand effect. What if I'm Jennifer McCabe or these people? The last thing I want to be doing is being in the public spotlight. It didn't go well for them. In the court of public opinion, they lost big time, like 10-1, I would say, out there. Not a lot of Jen McCabe diehard fans out there, right? And so if I were them, like the last thing I'd want to do is go in front of a camera again and talk about the Karen retrial, because that's ultimately what it would be about, right? Because I made comments and allegations about them in regard to the Karen retrial. We would have to relitigate the whole thing. But like you said, that is the appropriate way to do this. And it's funny you bring that up, because Robert Cosgrove said that part of the reason I should be charged is because it's taking too long. Like a lawsuit would take too long.
Yeah, because this thing is zipping through the courts.
Yeah. zip. As we saw, and all. So, Doug, you said this case gave you hope.
Yeah, it does give me hope, because again, you have a jury and a county, a venue that you would think would be, I would think, would be the most difficult for Afroman, and yet they came through. As Mark said, it's Ohio. This is the heart of America. And they believe in America. They believe in the Constitution, the First Amendment, and what we stand for. And I do have hope. I have hope for our country. I think maybe I'm looking for anything I can cling to, but I cling to this case to give me hope. It's a bright spot in a dark world.
So, Mark, with all the high-profile clients both you and I represent, I've had Casey Anthony, I've had Phil Spector, and all. You get people that hate you and they post terrible comments on you. How many cases would you be able to bring for somebody that said a terrible thing about you on Instagram or Twitter? I mean, I'll start with one today. Somebody called me because I called Justin the Alien because the courts had called Justin Alien the alien, and so did the prosecutor, and so did Michael Bryant. And someone said a bad thing about me, that maybe I look like an alien. So, I mean, I'll start there and then work backwards for 100,000 more. How about you?
I mean, I suppose on some level it just comes with, as Hyman Roth said, this is the business we've chosen, and you deal with it. Look, between how many trolls and trash bags online have said things that are probably actionable, as opposed to just I hate you and you're this and that, probably a lot. But in the real world, it's just generally not what we do. So you stay focused on the client's cases you have at hand and go from there. But it's also, it's part of the modern thing. Like this would never happen 10, 15 years ago when you have all these high profile cases, they get covered in the media. But, the media back then means there's a reporter from the New York Post, the Daily News, and, ABC News there, and then they write their stories, and that's that. Today, there are people who not only cover this stuff for a living, meaning having a platform and providing intelligent analysis, but there are also people who apparently sit online 24 hours a day with nothing to do, no vocation, no employment, and just bitch and moan and criticize on Twitter all day. And a lot of them will just say the craziest things. But, everything doesn't necessarily need to belong in a courtroom. And, you have a right to criticize us and call us terrible things and say that terrible things. We all see it all the time. And the crazy thing is that we're the last line of defense. It's people like us who will defend these assholes' rights to do that because the First Amendment allows it. And they're too dense to understand that. The irony and dichotomy in that you can just come after us and we're the people you need and want when you're in trouble.
Right. First people the cops will call if they feel like they have a lawsuit is us, right? So it's been a great panel, but I would like to give Aiden the last word, if it's okay with all of you. And so Aiden, take it away. Bring us home.
Oh, with Mr. Bederow here, he's going to kill me.
Not about witnesses and not about Mr. Cosgrove, but go ahead.
What else is there to talk about?
That narrows it down.
I don't know. No, I mean, it's a big win. I was happy to see him win. Like I said, I don't know how does it have to be unanimous on a jury in Ohio in a civil case?
No, they had 8 because they had 2 alternates. They needed to have 6. So
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this is to the test because he said some of the most heinous stuff you can say about people. And quite frankly, a lot of it wasn't true. Like he didn't have sex with the guy's wife. So that's that's a major thing right there. Cause
yes,
obviously defamation is like if you lie about somebody and you knowingly lied. So that was untrue. He knew it was untrue. He said it anyway, and it's still not defamation. And that's really important. Because, there is a line, there's satire. There's things that are just obviously not true that everybody knows are not true. And just saying that, and it's similar. I mean, Ms. Bro's going to kill me, but it's similar to the Colin Albert impression, which is what I was indicted for. I did an impression of Colin Albert doing the bang bang. Okay. And having Judge Krupp read that off in court, Mr. Bradel, but the First Amendment protects somebody who said, hey, Colin, it's TurtleBoy from them Advantage Boys. Bang, bang. We gonna fuck you dogs up. Bang, bang. It's I don't really talk like that. It's a bit I do, sir. And it's it's hard to get satire when it's in the written form. You actually have to hear it. You got to watch a whole episode. So it's similar. I mean, it's a very similar case to what I'm dealing with, except mine is in criminal court and his is in civil.
So maybe this case does bring the fact that people have to understand what satire is. Mad Magazine, satire. Saturday Night Live, satire. Satire, First Amendment, and even Budweiser can't sue Doug Weinstein for wearing his jacket saying that somehow it defames them.
No, they should be paying him for the ad space.
All right, anyone have any other last words they'd like to get in before we say goodnight to our great audience tonight and this great discussion on the First Amendment, because that's what this show is about. We are First Amendment, really, it's all about the First Amendment, and we will go to great lengths to protect it and to protect clients who use the First Amendment. So anyone want to comment on that, or else we'll have to say goodnight?
I'm busy.
I just want to say I'm staring at Doug's Budweiser jacket, and it reminded me, maybe in the late 80s, do you remember Neil Young had a song on MTV called This Note's for You? And it was a satire of criticizing all the Budweiser commercials and all the other commercials today. And I maybe I'm screwing this up because, age is coming up. But I don't know if either Budweiser or somebody tried to come after him and they tried to get MTV to take the video off. And there was kind of this First Amendment thing about it. And of course, the whole thing with, Neil Young was I'm being satirical. I'm criticizing Budweiser for just being sellouts, which is his right to do.
Yeah.
Yep. Everyone agrees. So bracket time. All of you have to go. I think Michael's bracket's already busted.
I don't know. A 12 beating a 5 is not a killer, but it's not great.
Go
So
Baden.
I guess I have to tell you all to hit subscribe, like, share, notify, and stay with us, because we are going to continue to press the First Amendment as far as we can press it, because that's why everybody who can count, it's called the First Amendment and not the 74th.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you chiming in. Aiden, I know I'm going to see you soon because I think you're going to be visiting Lawrence again. Is that correct?
Yeah, I can't. Next week I'll be in.
Yeah,
Lawrence.
next week. All right, man. I will see you then. And we have, thanks, guys. Appreciate you chiming in and on this important case. So take care. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Okay. What about, we've got so many talking heads here. I can't even find my buttons, so to speak.
Yeah, that's because you had too much sugar. You had too much
That
sugar.
could be. That could be. Hey, you know,
pound cake.
one thing about the jury that tipped me off that they weren't going to take much time. You know what that was? That's when the jury needed to go on a break while there was a sidebar of some sort, and one juror said, "Can we smoke?" And I knew where the priorities were. That okay, this is not going to take long. So
all right, I love everyone for being here. As I said, we don't like you to necessarily come here just because you have an agenda, but we will put up with like absolutely great First Amendment discussion, including Domino, who obviously is obviously like to get into this context of this discussion of the First Amendment. Go First Amendment.
First Amendment.
Yeah. Heads up to New Jersey. There's something called the First Amendment. Heads up to New York. There's something called the First Amendment. Heads up to Connecticut, Massachusetts. The whole East Coast. Who are the 13 original colonies? Heads up to those 13 original colonies, because you're the ones who brought it home. I know, because I watched Hamilton on Broadway.
All right. Somehow it all makes sense. All right, then. Thank you, partner. Good job.
See, 6 o'clock tomorrow night. We have a show on Kelsey. What the reveal is.
Prep for the trial. Yep.
Right. Michael will be up there next Monday and Tuesday. I won't be joining you until Wednesday because I'm actually going to be in federal court dealing with a case of my own for a client that I adore, as I've said in the past. So you will be taking over on Monday and Tuesday. Hopefully, maybe Aiden will help you co-host Monday.
Hey, who knows what's going to happen? I know he's going to be up there. We're going to see how this thing unfolds on Monday with Kelsey Fitzsimmons. So join us for that, please. In the meantime, do the liking and the sharing and the commenting.
Subscribe, hype, and all that. Please get us into the algorithm so everyone wants to come back.
Very good. All right, folks, have a great evening. We are Justice Serve TV. Please try to do the right thing.